Thank you for coming out to our next session of the Founders University series. We're really excited to have Darrell Evans out here today. Darrell has been a long time community advocate and entrepreneur and businessman in our ecosystem here in Nevada. So we're really excited to have him. But Darrell is a investor, business mentor. He is the co-founder and CEO of Yoka Local Marketing, which is one of the premier firms here in Las Vegas. He's helped many companies grow and scale their businesses, and he's helped clients generate over $300 million in revenues. He's also the host of the Mindshift podcast, does a lot of work on entrepreneurial marketing, inbound marketing, and a number of other areas when it comes to website, media, social media, et cetera. So he is foremost expert in this area. So we're really looking forward not only to his presentation, but also to the Q&A, where I know there's going to be a lot of value derived. But without much further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Darrell, please feel free to share yours and we will get started. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Logan. Really excited to be here. Hello, everyone in attendance today. As Logan said, I am Darrell Evans, and let me just get my slides here ready to go for you. I'm excited to share with you today. Well, listen, as I just said a moment ago, I'm super excited to be here for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm passionate about the work that StartUpNV is doing here in Nevada. I'm born and raised here, and I'll get a little bit into my background shortly. But what I'm excited to share with you today is just some. Am I good?
You're good.
Okay. So I'm really excited to share this presentation today. It's going to be from basic to advanced, depending on how the Q&A goes. And what I love to do in presentations is kind of get through the nuts and bolts as quickly but efficiently as possible, but more so get into the Q&A. I love the Q&A. So let's go ahead and jump right in, not waste any time. Here's kind of the agenda we want to work through over the next little while, 45 minutes or so, 30, 45. And that's quickly, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. Logan, I appreciate all the nice things you said, but kind of draw a little color to that so you know who's speaking to you today. And we're going to break down 3 topics today, right? Creating a website if you're a startup, the essential marketing, email marketing essentials, which are still critical to this day, and then where you should get started with social media. And I've thrown a few bonus tips in, and then again, we'll jump into the Q&A. I'd like to get your permission, if possible, to approach this conversation from 2 perspectives. Number 1, growth and customer acquisition. Growth and customer acquisition. Why? Well, in the world of online marketing, digital marketing, everything that's going on today technologically, there's a distinction between things that look good online and things that get results. And I've been an entrepreneur now for about 32 years, about to be 33 years. I turned 53 this year. Don't worry, I know I look like I'm going on 100, but that's for another conversation. Drink a lot of water. But I've spent so many times in the startup to growth phases with businesses, not only my own, but others. But as I mentioned a little bit about me, I'm born and raised here in Las Vegas, grew up in Rancho, high school, went on to UNLV. I was an athlete, but I didn't go on to play pro ball. I got my early start in entrepreneurship at the age of 20. I started my first business out of the trunk of my car. Maybe it was called a side hustle based on today's terminology, but I was profitable. Let me be clear about that. So, and I went on to do a number of other things, but from that, I went into the world of financial services after I got my degree in finance. But I knew corporate America wasn't my jam. Nothing against it, but I was a fantastic employee. But I knew I had a passion for entrepreneurship. So I moved on into the real estate and lending industry. I ended up owning a mortgage company between 2003 up to about 2008 or 9, when we shut it down at that time during the middle of that economic turn. But here's what I want to share with you today, where my background and perspective comes for this conversation. I started marketing online in 2003. And I know that makes me seem like I should be walking around with a digital cane, because 2003 to 2023 is 20 years. I can't believe I've been online marketing and growing business since 2003. So my perspective comes from that journey over a 20-year period of time, more specifically to the last 12 years or so. As Logan indicated, I am now the CEO, and I'm one of the co-founders of Yoka Local Internet Marketing, a digital marketing agency here based in Southern Nevada. We now have customers throughout the country, and we have teams throughout the country. We are based here, although we don't have a physical location any longer since the pandemic. And over that stretch of time, we started working with local businesses. We've moved into SaaS, B2B, B2C, all the things you can think of, e-commerce. And our focus has simply been to partner with these organizations to help them strategically map out their customer acquisition journeys online through this thing called digital marketing. And it has always included these three things that we're going to talk about today. I know there's a lot going on with all the different things and changes. We're going to get into some of that, but these are the three essentials. And so we're going to talk about what some of the basic nuts and bolts are needed for a growth-driven website. Mind you, our websites are not just, they don't look good. Great looking websites for part one, but they've got to get the job done. Part two is we've got to understand where the real assets are in digital marketing. There's a lot of misunderstanding out in the market today that building 100,000 people following on Instagram is an asset. It's not an asset. We'll talk about that. Going viral on TikTok, not an asset. We need to build assets. If we're business owners, we need to understand the difference between assets and liabilities and just things in our business digital ecosystem and understand where the real leverage comes from. And again, I want to get into some bonus tips. So let's jump right in. And first off, kick this off with well, we already talked a little bit about me. Let me just go quickly. I think I've covered everything there. Growth-driven entrepreneur. For those that are interested, I teach live 2 or 3 times a month inside of the growth-driven entrepreneur community, which is my private community, and you can find it at growthdrivenentrepreneur.com. It's a Facebook community. It'll go private here shortly, and it is free to join. And we essentially have probably 6 to 8 hours of I'd like to say good strategic and tactical content in that community. It's my purpose now to go back and really help a lot of entrepreneurs, because a lot of them are not ready to hire our agency yet, but we find that a lot of them are getting misinformation out in the market. So if you're interested in that, and again, if you happen to be a person who listens to a podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, we are now moving to YouTube now that YouTube has launched podcasts. The Mindshift podcast with Darrell Evans is on all the platforms, and we are now in episode 210 or 215, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it's been a very nice run. Okay, and then if you want to follow me on social media, I'm starting to do a lot more on social media. I've been behind the scenes for a lot of years, but now I'm starting to go a little bit more forward with my brand. I'm at Mr. Darrell Evans. If you are the digital type, and I don't know if this is going to work, I apologize in advance, but maybe if you take a screenshot of this, it'll link up and take you out to a bunch of links on my social media, but whatever, we'll see if it works. I just threw it in there because someone said put it in there. All right, let's get into it. Creating your website. I want to start I'm going to start here really quick with a couple of questions that people ask me on a regular basis. Small companies, middle-sized companies, especially some of the younger entrepreneurs that are coming into the world today, is do you even need a website? I can't tell you how many times in a calendar year I field the question, do I need a website if I can just start on social media and I can put links on my Facebook and my Instagram, my Twitter, my Snapchat? The answer is yes. For at least this current period and for the foreseeable period, your website, you own it. And this is the biggest distinction. You own your website. You don't own social media profiles. I have been saying this now for over a decade. And the reason why I can say this with confidence that you still need a website is because I have the purview of hundreds and hundreds of accounts over the last 12 years where I've seen social media profiles get banned for no reason. Ad accounts get banned for no reason. Now, there's been a couple people where they violated terms of service, but we don't own Facebook, Google. We don't own Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, none of it. So we do still need to make sure we control the asset called our website. Number two, can't we just use it? I just kind of answered this. Can we just use social media? I mean, we need to be there. We'll talk about that. But I believe you've got to own the asset called your website. And are they effective? Well, I'll tell you right now, there's not one customer who works with us that is not using their website effectively to generate leads and sales. So there's two types, right? A service business where the lead is coming through and maybe they're getting a phone call or they're getting a form fill, and then the lead or the sales conversation is happening there. Or if we're talking about e-commerce, right? If we're e-commerce, then obviously we're creating those pathways to make sales there. Let's get into some of the key elements. Elements are key. Right now, I'll take you back to 2003 when I built my first website, and I didn't build it, but it was so expensive. It was just unbelievably expensive, unbelievably hard. But here are some things that have never changed about good website design as it relates to growth and customer acquisition, lead generation and customer acquisition. Number one, at the top of your website, you want to have a clear value proposition. There is a study that says that the average visitor has to be able to determine what you do, how you do it, and who you do it for in 7 or 8 seconds from the time they arrive on your website. And this has nothing to do with this idea that, well, we're so busy today that we have the attention span of, a goldfish, whatever the study was. That's not what this is about. But we are in a hurry today. So we want to make sure we start our website off with a very clear, crystal value proposition. What's in it for them by being there, right? Number 2, easy navigation and UX. UX simply means user experience, user experience. User experience is today essential because you don't want people to be confused. If you're taking notes, you want to write this down. Don't make your visitor think. It wants to be simply laid out. It wants to be clean. You don't want them to have to wonder where they're going to do the next thing that they wanted to do when they got there. So easy navigation and a clean UX or user interface, UI, UX, okay? Next, this is a given, but I do still see websites that are not fully mobile responsive. Again, on the back of the data here at our agency, not every business is tipped over where most of their traffic is mobile versus desktop. But let's be clear, if you're selling something that requires a buying journey, they may start the journey on their mobile, complete the transaction on desktop. But we need to make sure that it's a good, clean layout from a mobile responsiveness. And if you expect to get Google to assist you with search engine optimization and driving visitors and traffic and ranking and all those other things, it's critical that it's completely mobile responsive and fast. Next, this is something, again, if you're writing down notes, I have said this for years and I have to keep repeating this, and that is from a growth standpoint, not just a good looking design, but content. Google ranks web pages, not websites. I'll repeat it. Google ranks web pages, not websites. I can't tell you in the last 10, 12 years how many people have built a beautiful website with a homepage and the about page and 3 or 4 or 5 service or product pages and the contact page and a blog. And they never published on the blog. And so they've got this beautiful website, looks great. Maybe it meets all these other criteria. And then there's no additional pages on the website and they wonder why it's not growing their business. Well, Google ranks pages, not websites. Therefore, we must have content. Content is a marketing strategy. And we can talk more about that and really dive into it in the Q&A. But content is what's needed to grow your key website. And again, search engine optimization. Search engine optimization now is a given. There are so many good things about website design now. We'll talk about some of the platforms that make search engine optimization easier for people that are not necessarily technically sound. But I will say that you should not think about your website without thinking about search engine optimization, at least today. We'll talk a little bit later as we get into technology and some of those thoughts about what I think. I'm going to predict and leave you with a prediction about what I think is in store for some years ahead as we think about Google going forward. And then lastly, as we think about, again, lead generation, customer acquisition, websites must have very crystal clear calls to action. What does that mean? That means we must clearly let our visitors know what we want them to do next. So often I look at websites and I do a lot of audits still to this day, and I don't know how to interact with your business. Do you want me to, like, let's take the contact form, for example. I always pick on websites because I'll move around their website and there's no lead generation forms on the website. All I see is this contact form, which is a standard form that you should have. But then I go to the contact form and it has me put in my first name, my last name, my email address, my company name, my URL, my phone number, and it says message. And then the button says submit. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do on this form? Am I supposed to ask you for help? Am I supposed to book a meeting? And what am I supposed to do? It's not clear. And so you get leads sometimes, and then you get solicitors sometimes, and then you get randomness, and then you get spam and robots and things of that nature. So we want to make sure our websites have these elements, that clear call to action, so that we can start generating leads. Let's go into some popular platforms. And again, some of these you've probably heard of. And if you haven't, let me just tell you where I see them fitting into the growth ecosystem. And these are my perspective, not necessarily the rule. But WordPress has been, for the longest time, the simplest, easiest, most flexible way to build what I call a growth-driven website, whether you're a startup or a large company. There's some challenges that WordPress brings, as well as its advantages. The advantages are you can build the base layer and literally build in anything that you want from a functionality standpoint, whether it's simple or complex. The problem with WordPress, in a way, today is the fact that you can take a blank slate website and add anything you want to it. What that means is the website has potential vulnerabilities. Okay, unlike when you build a house and you start with a foundation and the walls go up and the roof goes on and the walls are, everything's sturdy. But we all know that as houses age, certain parts of the house can break. The plumbing can go out over here, the faucet can go out over there, a window can break. The house will settle, especially here in Nevada with our, the way our ground and soil is. Very similarly, WordPress websites have the similar type of problems whereby all of the things you can add create opportunities for the website to break. Fantastically flexible, inexpensive to start. I mean, you can start a WordPress website today on a hosting plan for under 10 bucks a month, under 20 bucks a month if it's even a premium site, and you can find themes to help you build out that site fairly quickly. So WordPress, probably the leader in open source websites right now. But my favorite, and what we do at our agency, we're a HubSpot partner agency, and HubSpot is now our website product of choice, largely because we work with service businesses, largely because we work with small to middle-sized companies. And HubSpot was not in the website building business, or they didn't have a functionality. They didn't have a CMS or a content marketing system up until just a few years ago. And now it has been brought down from a very complex system that needed a lot of coding down to a drag and drop system for every business to use, starting at around $25 or $30 per month, which it gives you a lot more to it, but we're not here to just break all that down. But we're a HubSpot marketing agency, HubSpot partner. We have literally we've moved away from WordPress, we've moved away from all of it, and we literally only build sites on HubSpot. Now, it doesn't mean we don't service WordPress or Shopify or Squarespace or the others, but our functionality and we're putting our trust in this multi-billion-dollar company so that we don't have to worry about all of the problems that come with some of the other things. Shopify, if you're in e-commerce and haven't heard of Shopify, I'd be surprised. Obviously, they're the leader in e-commerce. That is an area HubSpot doesn't touch. WordPress, you certainly can build in your e-commerce there. But between Shopify, I mean, there's no, hands down, Shopify is the leader in e-commerce. Squarespace is making a big splash with the creators in the world, people that are in art and photos and video. And I mean, it's got a very clean design. It's very easy to work with. And so Squarespace is another great option. I will say that over the years, as we've looked at companies that had Squarespace websites, they don't perform as well in Google from a search engine optimization standpoint. And I actually don't know why. That similarly goes for the fifth category here, which is Wix. Wix, you can have a Wix site up in an hour, literally, and it's not very expensive. So these last two, great, easy designs for getting something launched, but for some reason, we have not seen similar optimization capabilities and these websites ranking well on the first page of Google. And I don't know why. We don't work with those sites that much, but we don't see them doing that well in that category. Okay, so those are the five big players. They're certainly not the only. And we're going to talk a little later about AI. Like, we can't leave today's conversation without talking about AI. But let's move into the next part of the conversation. Email marketing. You know, I'm asked on a regular basis, is email still effective? Everybody's running around with a mobile device. Everybody's DMing people. Everybody's Snapchatting and Instagramming and TikToking and all this stuff. TikTok, you don't stop. Who's saying that? Anyway, we'll come back to that later. Logan's looking at me like, who are you talking about? I'm too young to know that. But I got my start in digital in 2003, as I said, and it was with email marketing. So if I back you up 20 years, I'm having conversations with 10, 15, 20 people in the real estate lending industry every month, and I needed to keep in touch with them. And so I got attached to email marketing as the mechanism. People ask me today, is it still effective when we've got a young group of kids growing up today with devices in their hand? Do they even check email and so forth? I've got 5 kids. I know that half of them grew up with devices at ages that I would have never had a device, but the answer is yes. So we'll make a case for that in a moment. Aren't open rates dropping? Like, I'm meeting with clients and customers every month, every year, and yes, the truth is email open rates are dropping, but it doesn't mean it doesn't work. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We can talk about it in the Q&A. Isn't social media better than email marketing? These are common questions I get. The answer is they both work. Right? This isn't either or, right? This is and, right? How do we use all of these tools that are available to us today? Okay, let's get in. Here's the stat that I wish I could tell you was wrong. And by the way, I think it's understated in all of my years, but I'm not constant contact. I rely on people that have bigger resources for data gathering than I do, because I think my sample set is limited. Though I've worked with 300 and something companies over the last 12 years to help them grow. We've taught well over 1,000. I'm going to use a statistic that I didn't have to come up with, and that is email marketing has an ROI of 36 to 1. 36 to 1. So let me put this in perspective. My ad agency, Yoka Local, we spend a lot of time advertising on Google and Facebook to drive leads and sales for our customers. When we leave those points of acquisition in Google ad campaigns and Facebook and social media campaigns, we're shooting for minimum 1-to-1 break even, 1-to-2, 1-to-3, 1-to-4, or 4-to-1 if you want, 4, 3, 2 to 1. But when we look at email and how many people don't put emphasis on email, and it's got a 36 to 1 ROI. Let me put a quick case study in there for you to put some color on it. And I can pull out a lot of them, but let me just pull one that is pretty easy for me to think about. We met a dentist who was starting up his practice, 2015. He's getting out of school. He goes back home to his hometown, starts a practice. He doesn't have the cash flow to hire us at the point because he's a startup. He has no business. He's got his building he's opening. He's not ready to hire an agency like us, which is an investment. Well, he joined our training program and learned some of the techniques. He went off and did it on his own. I met with him one time for an hour. I invited him to the course. We gave him access to the course, and I didn't talk to him for 2 years. But in the 2 years, he received an email from us every month for 2 years, 24 emails. How much did it cost me to send him 24 emails? And by the way, I didn't send him, right? Didn't cost me nothing, right? And did I send him just to him, or did I send him to everybody that was in my lead database based on his category? I sent him to everybody. So I took one effort to send an email, stayed in touch with him for 24 months. The phone call 2 years later goes like this. Hey, Darrell, this is Jarrett. Do you remember me? I'm like, yeah, Jarrett, how's the practice going? He goes, yeah, I'm tired of this marketing stuff. I need your help. We had a contract the next month, and he worked with us for 3.5 years leading into the pandemic. The pandemic obviously sidelined him for a little bit, and then his competitor left the market. So he didn't need us anymore because he had no more competition because he's in a small city in Iowa. Okay, now he just came back to us after a couple of years. He's got a new business. But the point is, email marketing works if we do it right. And I'm going to draw some distinctions in just a moment. Let's talk about the benefits here. These are all the things that, and there's one really specifically here, I think most of us would understand that lead generation is where once we have a lead in our ecosystem, once we have a lead in our world, it doesn't mean they want to buy from us today. They could be perfectly capable from a budget standpoint. They could be the right person. They could be the right authority. They could even have a need. The key that I've learned over 30 years since I started my journey in sales and then made it to the marketing side is that we never know what someone's timing is going to be. We never know. You think isn't it interesting that prior to the pandemic, businesses had websites and had social media, but they didn't take digital as seriously until we were all sidelined during that temporary period called the pandemic. Then all of a sudden, timing became a real interesting motivator. I call them triggering events. And so so that's where you never know. Email is the easiest way to stay in front of someone until a triggering event happens in their life, and then you're present. People say to me all the time, Darrell, paid ads didn't work. Darrell, Google ads didn't work. Darrell, I get all these leads. I get all this traffic to my website, but it's not converting. And the question is, we say yet. It's not converting yet. And it'll never convert unless we put the right mechanisms in place. Email can help with that. Lead generation, lead nurturing, right? That's all we did. We nurtured leads. Now I'm going to draw a distinction between the word nurturing and a couple of other terms. but it doesn't cost much to nurture your relationships digitally with your leads. Customer engagement, obviously pretty easy one. Customer support, pretty easy one. And here's the one that I want to spend a minute on, and that is first party data. For those that, this is a little bit advanced, but right now, as a consumer base, we are pushing back against cookies and tracking. Like, you've all probably gone to a website, and then later on Facebook, they were running an ad to you. You went on YouTube, you watched a YouTube video, then you're on your email, and then in your email, there's a little bar at the top, and it's advertising the same thing that you saw on Facebook. So we've pushed back as consumers saying, hey, this is a little too aggressive. I'm losing my privacy. So Google, Facebook, Apple, all of it, they're shutting down these tracking cookies. And it's going to be critical that we, as business owners, own first party data. What is that? First name, last name, email, website, phone number, address, boom, boom, boom. The same way we did offline back in the days, okay? First party data, and then email. If you have enough first party data, you're going to still be able to leverage all of the tools that we use online. Let's get into some best practices. Again, I said it before, I'll say it again. I keep saying it all the time, that 36-to-1 should hopefully be something you keep in your mind, but you must always continually build your email list. Your email list is outside of your website, to me though, it's your #1 asset. And here's why. We just said it earlier. If I've got an email list of potential leads, my network, my sphere of influence, vendor partners, etc., I can now communicate with them with the push of a click. One email, push it anytime I want. Number 2, this is a little advanced, but this is one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, is if you're trying to reach new markets, if you're trying to reach cold audiences, people that don't know who you are yet, don't know who your brand is yet, don't know what your product or service is yet, but you've got 1,000 email addresses from people who've sort of come into your world because they were interested in what you're selling or servicing or doing, you can now use the power of YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm not sure if they're doing it on Snapchat yet, but we can now take that first party data and plug it into these platforms and let those platforms do some work for us, which means we can then assign an advertisement to say, can you go put my brand in front of people who already look like people that already inquired? Okay, so it's important, but if we don't have a list, we can't do that, right? And it doesn't mean cold advertising doesn't work, but this is a more powerful way. Segmenting. It does you no good to have 1,000 people on your email list, and I'm just using 1,000 for a round number. It does no good to have 1,000 people on your email list and you not know who came in the door for what reason, right? Who came in the door for what reason? You're sending the same message out to everybody, and then you got unsubscribes because they came in about orange juice, but you keep talking about, you keep talking about pasta. I'm just making stuff up. But if the person came through orange juice, only send them orange juice emails. If this person came through for pasta, only send them pasta emails, right? It's easy to do, especially with all the platforms today. Personalizing content. Context is everything. People know today whether they're getting a blast email that was sent to 1,000 people or if they got one that looked like it was sent to them. Okay, it's important that we spend time in our marketing to personalize our content, as well as segmenting, but then personalize it, making it relevant. Next point, be relevant, right? There's no reason to not know, especially in systems like HubSpot and a few of the other tools we'll talk about, you can know who's engaged with your content and who's not engaged with your content. And so it just takes a few extra steps in our planning and our structure and our strategy and tactics each month to really segment who's paying attention to what, and then make sure that we're only sending them relevant content. One of the best things we do in our agency is we have a filtering system through our workflows through HubSpot, where we can say, hey, we've got 250 people that keep going to this page. So let's take those 250 and send them a special offer or a special invitation or a special evite or a special sale or special content and make it relevant to them because we see their behavior moving this direction. And we can spend time with all the data today and do that. And the other side of it is, this last point is staying top of mind. I just can't tell you, Logan, it's unbelievable how many times we talk to a company. I just had a meeting just a couple of days ago. I'll just put it this way. So they have a list of 28,000 people in their database, 28,000 people in the database. 19,000 of those people are unengaged. Now, how do we know they're unengaged? Well, the data tells us they're unengaged. And that's a problem because that's 65 or, that's 60, 55, 60% of their database that's more than that, actually. I'm doing my math wrong. 28,000, 12,000, 19, 12, 19. So anyway, forget the math. I got a finance degree, but I can't count that fast. But we've got this database that's about 55% unengaged, right? Why do we think that that is? Well, if we go back in there, we can find out that they haven't been communicating with these folks. And if they had been, they weren't personalizing the content and staying relevant. So let's get into some distinctions. There's a distinction that I want you to take away from if you don't misunderstand this, because I hear all the time, email marketing is not working, some of the things earlier. It's not working, I should be using more social media, people aren't opening my emails, etc. Here's a distinction. There's a difference between campaigns, newsletters, and sales sequences. There's a difference. A campaign is when someone comes through your world, like for example, someone comes through my world in my agency, and if they download this one specific item, they're going to get a campaign of 7 emails. They're sealed off from any other communication in our agency until they complete this 7-part campaign. It's an educational sequence. It's not a sales sequence. Newsletters, and I'm fussing right now with one of our biggest clients because they're used to sending newsletters and they're wondering why they don't close deals. They don't move people forward in the lead process. I'm like, it's just a newsletter. That's just like you saying, hi, I'm glad you're here, but we're not being intentional. And then there's sales sequences. Someone's behavior by way of opening, clicking, or visiting your website or filling out a certain form should move them to a sales sequence, which is a different conversation, whatever that means in your business, okay? It's a distinction I always have to talk about and we have to think about in marketing. You guys are probably familiar with many of these platforms, so I won't go too deep in it. There are no shortage of great email marketing platforms, let me be clear. The platform I started on, I didn't list here, it is still around, it's called GetResponse. But MailChimp has blown up the world. Everybody knows it's probably one of the most inexpensive tools to get started with for small businesses and startups. ConvertKit, a lot more functionality and features. Constant Contacts, legacy company, been out for a long time. My favorite, 2 of my favorites, ActiveCampaign and HubSpot. HubSpot, again, is an all-inclusive product. It's not just email marketing and marketing automation, but as I said, websites and a whole bunch of other things. And if you're in the e-commerce space, Klaviyo. Klaviyo works really, really well with Shopify. So if you're with Shopify, as we talked about a little earlier, but let me be clear, they almost all do the same types of things. There's some advanced functionality in ActiveCampaign and HubSpot and ConvertKit that I don't see in MailChimp and Constant Contact and Klaviyo just yet, but they're all relatively the same. Last part, social media. Same thing, common questions. How do I reach more customers on social media? Social media used to be pretty easy where you set up a fan page or you set up an account, post a few times and go viral. You still can do that on TikTok. But the rest of the platforms are publicly traded now, and therefore they have muted the reach, meaning they limit how many people your organic posts are going to see. A lot of people ask me how to get more followers on social media, and I'm going to tell you it's the wrong question. You don't need followers, you need engagement. You need video views and you need people sharing your stuff. I've had 22,000 followers on my Facebook page for about 5 years. Yet my follower growth and my reach is 4 or 5 times that. So here's the thing. People don't want to follow pages anymore. They want to engage in content. It's for a different conversation, but to just chase how many people are following your page isn't necessarily the right question. It's not bad to have followers, don't get me wrong. And then where should I be spending my time on social media? Okay, so Statista says there's 4.26 billion people on social media a day. Why do I bring this statistic up? Well, United States, if you're here in the United States, North America, there are roughly 300 million people in the United States. But I can't tell you how many times I hear founders, CEOs say, well, I'm selling high ticket B2B, I'm selling to the ultra affluent net worth people, and they're not on Facebook and social media. It's just not true. If you believe that, then it's true for you. But I can assure you that we find our clients' customers on social media. So here's the opportunity: increase brand awareness, connect and build relationships, test and get feedback, and lead generation and customer acquisition, and absolutely free, almost. Why? Well, you have to spend some time. You've got to create the content, you got to create the images, you got to spend some time posting. And the benefit is social media gives you the best one-to-one opportunity because you can do, oh, no, I forgot one thing here. And that, let's go back. Maybe I didn't add it. Anyway, you have the best opportunity to speak with potential customers through Messenger, through DMs, through one-on-ones. That's what we love about social media. And again, you can use social media to move things fast. You can move fast, okay? Social media is good for everybody in the room. It just depends on what platform, right? So I've got some best practices for you. There should be no surprises of these top platforms here. Each of them have their own unique reasons. They are all viable. It just depends on a couple of things. And here's what I want to share with you. Number one, you shouldn't, if you're a startup, be trying to post and be visible everywhere. You should find the platform where your customer or you think your customer lives most often, and then repurpose, if you have the time, to the rest. Number two, you need a weekly content rhythm, the 3 E's. What do I mean by that? You can't just post once a month and think, well, we just posted. You need a weekly rhythm. What are the 3 E's? You can write this down if you've never heard this before. And the first E, what type of content should we be posting is what I'm getting at. The first E is engaging or empowering content, things that are neutral to everyone, whether they're your customer or not. What am I thinking about? Videos, motivational quotes, good news that's relevant to your industry. They don't have to be just from your content creation effort. The second E is entertaining content. And I get a lot of pushback. Well, we're a B2B company, we're B2C, we're not trying to be on there dancing on TikTok. That's fine, but figure out how to bring humor into your content because more people will engage. And the third E is educational content, which is where the lion's share of our content efforts should be as startups. If we've got a product, we've got a service, we're trying to bring education to that information. Okay, we want to engage and be social. So often we just publish and we don't engage. We push, but we don't engage, right? It wouldn't be the same if we were in a networking group. We would engage in a dialogue if we were face-to-face with people. We've done it for years. But for some reason, we get on social and we think because we can use Hootsuite and Buffer and some of the tools we'll talk about, we just create something and push, but we don't engage. We just push, but we don't spend time on anyone else's account trying to become more visible, okay? Video holds the most attention on social media, both long and short form. I know TikTok is all the rage. I know YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels and Facebook Reels, and everybody's in the 1-minute video consumption business right now or less. And it's true, but don't go to sleep on long form content. We're publishing 1.5 hour pieces of content, 10-minute pieces of content, 5-minute piece of content, 3-minute, and the short forms, but don't go to sleep. Video holds the most attention and will get you the biggest amount of engagement and followers on social as of right now, 2023. Okay. And then the biggest thing is, as we've already said, you've got to get these people off of social media. You've got to get them on your email list. That's the thing you control. You've got to continually make efforts to get them on your email list. Now, last thing is, I guess I put it here, I thought it was on the slide before, and that is spending time in Messenger one-on-one. When someone messages you, when someone likes your post, when someone comments on your post, reach out to them, spend a minute, set aside 30 minutes a day and say, anybody who's commented on my post, I'm going to send them a little DM and say thank you. Sure, you could say it on the post, but reach out and say, hey, what was it about the post that you liked today? What was it about that commented about it? If they commented it, say something to them in the DM. Try to get them private and then get them eventually out of there and onto your email list. They still want to follow you on social, but you want to get some leverage there. Okay, let's talk about some tools. You guys have probably seen many of these, and if you haven't, they're all available. Meta Business Suite is available for free for everyone. You do not need a third-party tool to post into Facebook or it's Meta now, Facebook and Instagram. And here's the key. You actually don't want to use a third-party tool to publish into Facebook and Instagram. Why? Because they will mute the reach of those posts. You're better off using Facebook and the Meta Business Suite. I'm still trying to get used to their name, y'all. They change their name anytime they decide to. So you want to set up a Meta Business Suite account and post directly to Facebook and Instagram from the Meta Business Suite. Then all the rest of them, you can think about Buffer, you can think about Hootsuite, Lately, Sprout Social, HubSpot has its own tool at one of their bigger packages, Social Pilot. There's no shortage of social media posting tools, more that I have here to list it. What I will tell you though is if you get one takeaway, post natively to Instagram or Facebook, or use the Meta Business Suite. You'll get the best reach. And no matter, even if they say they connect to Buffer and Hootsuite and all these tools, I will tell you that your reach will go further if you post natively to the platform. All right, let's bring this home. I want to share with you a couple of the apps that are on my phone that I use regularly. WordSwag, great for creating quick posts, images, quote posts. It's fantastic. It's been on my app for 5-6 years. Canva, as everybody probably knows, an amazing app for it turns. I'm not a creator whatsoever, y'all. I don't have graphic skills. If I open Photoshop, I already start having a headache. Canva's amazing. Adobe Lightroom, CapCut. Oh my geez, y'all, CapCut. It will make your video editing amazing. It's so easy to use. InShot is another one, fantastic video editor, and then Cut Story. It'll take your regular video and make it ready for the Instagram stories or the stories and the reels. Okay, so these are some of the easy ones to use. And then my absolute favorite, you gotta do this if you're posting videos. You should always add captions to your videos on reels or regular videos, even now on YouTube. And the best app right now that I'm using, it does cost money, by the way. I believe it's $8 a month, and it is called Captions. But I'm telling you, download it, take a 7-day trial, put a video in there and watch what it does. It has some AI features that is absolutely amazing. And again, I'm not a video editor. I'm not any of that, right? So I have to have these types of tools. These are tools, most of these are free. I think my InShot subscription might be $30 a whole year, okay? Let me give you the last couple of optimization tips as it relates to the topic of website design and growing your business online. Again, things that I see mistakenly made is not installing Google Analytics. You must have an analytics suite tied to everything you're doing. You know, they say, I forget the thought leader who said this, but what gets measured gets improved. And I forget who said it. I learned it in college, but we've got to be able to measure. Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager. You guys can take a screenshot of this. And of course, I can make these slides available for Logan to share. Let your data drive your decisions on your website. There's too many people that get caught up with their eyes and they think, well, the website doesn't look that good, or I think the button should be here versus there. The image should be top versus bottom. Let the data decide, and you won't know if the data is telling you anything unless you've got these tools installed for tracking. And again, it's all about testing and experiments, okay? Last part here. Everybody here familiar? If you're familiar with some of this AI stuff going on, get excited. ChatGPT, my favorite AI tools right now. ChatGPT lit up the world. I got notified. Put it this way.
Office right here.
I know I don't watch a lot of news, but when I get 3 or 4 or 5 texts from my phone call in a couple, 3 days, I know
you are welcome to utilize.
that was a call I got
welcome
during
to utilize
December. I was on a break last week of December. ChatGPT was introduced.
There's a calendar invite.
Amazing. We have a full 1.5 hour class inside the Growth Driven Entrepreneur community. If you want to check out the replay, just hop over to that community and you can watch that for free. It is game changer. Jasper is a paid tool, also tying into ChatGPT. Synthesia, I don't even know how to pronounce it, but Synthesia or Synthesia, you can take text and turn it into video. So if you hate being on camera, text into videos. It's pretty crazy. Copy.ai, Vidyo.ai. You can take video, go to Vidyo.ai, V-I-D-Y-O.ai, and it literally chops up long form videos for you. It's not perfect. It'll get better, y'all. But Vidyo.ai, very inexpensive to use. And of course, Canva is now in the AI writing business as well. So I know we're bringing this home. Let's just recap really quick. The website ideas are simple, very simple design, very simple UI, very simple navigation. Mobile responsiveness, critical in 2023. If it's not mobile responsive, you will lose visitors in a second. Also, it should be fast. I didn't put that in here, but it should be super fast to load, ideally under 1 second. 2 or 3 is going to be okay, but faster it loads, the better. And definitely from a lead generation and growth standpoint, clear value propositions. Number 2, let's recap email, building a list, segmenting, personalizing for highest ROI. And please remember the difference between campaigns, newsletters, and sales sequences. There are structures to how these are done, and they're all done in appropriate times in the buyer's journey. Lastly, social media. Let's choose one platform. This idea of the power of one comes from my program, the Lean Growth Method, which I've been teaching for years. Again, you can learn more about that if you come into the Facebook group, but we've got to just choose one platform so we don't get overwhelmed. Then we can start to expand out. Let's make sure we establish a 3E content rhythm, right? Empowering or engaging content, educational content or entertaining content. Whether you're comfortable or not, video matters. You've got to get it. I have to push my clients to do it. We have a product that we help our clients do it, but you got to keep video in mind. And then you got to get people off the platform so you own the data. Wow, that was a fast 45 minutes. Awesome. Yeah, so if we have any questions in the chat, I am super happy to answer them. Yeah, so Ken Evans. Ken, my God, what's going on, Ken? What's the best way to collect first-party data? The simplest way to collect first-party data is a form on your website, or really just having an email software tool that allows you to create a form. And that form can either be sent to someone in an email, it can be on a web page, you can populate it into a social media profile and let people opt in. So essentially, first-party data simply means you got someone to enter first name, last name, email, or first name, email, or email only, or whatever else you're looking for. And that then becomes your first-party data. Once you have that data, you can use it. The mistake is believing that you just keep communicating with them through DMs and you've got control. Because listen, I woke up and had my Instagram account shut down. I was on Thanksgiving last year. My Facebook account got shut down. I run ads for companies, 30 of them, as a matter of fact. And it's a bad idea when the founder of the company has his Facebook account shut down. Let me be clear. I didn't violate no terms of service. I didn't violate anything. Their little AI things get a little out of control sometimes, but when you don't have the data, you end up kind of stuck. What is the strategy? Next question. What is the strategy for developing a 7 to 8 second attention grabbing top website? Great question. Think of it this way. You want to think about, what can I say at the very top of the website that will say what we do, who we do it for, and how to get it or how to buy it. Let me just pop over to our website really quick and see if I can, am I still sharing screen?
You are. We are seeing that come through.
Okay, let's see if I can. Now, I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not saying this is the best, but let's say you didn't scroll anywhere. You didn't scroll down the first page at all, and all you did was get to the home page. Our website says, done for you, digital marketing that drives high quality leads and more sales. And then there's a description. So even if I took the description out, sorry, and there's a pop-up. By the way, Ken, that's a good way to get first-party data for another class. But if you didn't even read anything else, it says what we do. Now, I didn't actually call out who my buyer is here, but what we do is done for you digital marketing. And here's the benefit: high quality leads and sales. Then it says, are you tired of not getting enough results from your digital marketing? See how we can help you in the next 90 days or less. And the call to action is book a call. It's pretty clear. Now, whether you want to do that today or not is not important, but notice that pop-up that just popped up there. See, I don't expect everybody to book a call the minute they get to the website. So we capture leads that way. So those are 2 ways to get first-party data. I hope that helps. But again, what you do, if you can squeeze it in who you do it for, like I could say, done for you digital marketing for service professionals. If I wanted to add that there, that does the benefit. I hope that helps, Ken. I lost my chat now.
That's all right. And we do have another question about how would you segment first-party data when all you have is a name and email?
Yes, great question. So the technique that we use is on the form, where appropriate, we would add 1 segmenting criteria. What do I mean by that? If there is probably one defining, well, there's 2 ways. If you do it the minute they come through the door or on an opt-in form that just has first name and email, let's say, what we try to do is say, number 1, only you want to segment it by the form by which they filled out. That would be called a landing page. I'm going to go back to my screen one more time. So if somebody comes through this, hopefully this goes right. So if somebody goes through this landing page on our website, which was in our navigation, the segmenting idea is that they filled out the form to get this guide about how to increase website traffic, leads, and sales. So the segmenting happens because first name and email is tied to this page. Okay. Another way to do it, though, is what if I wanted to know a little bit more about this person's problem when they downloaded it? Because I said This will help you with website traffic, getting more leads, or converting. I could put one more radio button or checkbox on the form and say, what's your biggest challenge? Getting more traffic, getting more leads, or converting more sales. That would be a segmenting mechanism as well, which would take it to 2 steps. I know they came through this form on this page, but then now I know that they said their biggest problem is traffic or leads or sales. And that is something we call, it's a property or a tag inside of most email systems. So that gives me a little bit more data to segment.
Darrell, I have one. So we talk about conversions. You want to make sure it's streamlined, it's easy, it's efficient, that people visit your site, they convert as often as possible to a lead or a customer. If you've got a lot of programs or a lot of things that you want to get out, can you talk about some of the examples that how you can streamline it, but still get a lot of information across? Or if you have a lot of programs, how do you take them down the rabbit hole that's efficient so they can get the information you want to share, but it doesn't hurt conversions? Because I've seen so many entrepreneurs, they just bog down their website because they have a lot to share and it hurts the conversion.
Yeah, so I think it becomes getting back to being very narrow. So I think of it this way. When we are, there are lots of problems that a person could have before they need to buy your product or service, right? So the question is take them on a journey to the problem. Let the reason they came through the door or the reason they opted in, let it be because of the problem. Again, I'm not putting YokoLocal's website on display here, but in our methodology, if you look at my drop downs in this navigation, when someone comes to my agency, they ultimately have multiple problems. They usually fall in one of these 5 categories. And there's a 6th one here, but we can't solve the 6th one on a page. They struggle knowing who their buyer persona is and what their problems are. So they may want to solve a buyer persona problem. If someone goes to that page, there is a specific thing that we want them to do, and then we'll keep them in that journey without diluting their focus. Same thing with growing traffic, getting leads, and delighting customers. If they happen to come through a services page, let's say, then we're going to keep them discussing that topic for a while. Remember, we said campaigns, newsletters, and then sales sequences. Well, we're going to put them in a campaign that's going to begin talking to them continuously about that until we've exercised our call to action and said they didn't actually want to do that right now. Now we'll pull them somewhere else, right? You can technically put someone in a campaign. If I wanted to, I could take someone who came in through any door on our website. By the way, I use the phrase door when I think of forms. They could come in through the form that we just talked about a moment ago, and I can take them down 7 days or a 7-part email sequence there. And I can instantly pick them up and put them in another campaign. What I do is I believe that newsletters you should never have hot leads on a newsletter, in my opinion. What do I mean by that? I don't want to open a newsletter and have 17 things to click on and you're telling me about the latest news in the industry. That's not moving me closer to the buy line, right? Remember, I'm talking from a growth and acquisition standpoint. I'm not saying there's no room for newsletters, but that's the way I think about it. I don't want anybody on a newsletter until they have worked their way behaviorally out of being a customer of mine for now, right? Then they can be on the newsletter later until they do something on the website, like coming back to one of my service pages, and now they re-trigger themselves back into a more active campaign. So
gotcha. Guidance then, bringing it to them.
Yeah.
We have one more question. When is the best time to go on social media? We are a startup in the idea validation stage. Is that something we should be working on right now?
So in validating, the way I think about it is you're testing you're testing ideas and concepts, whether or not there's buy-in, there's interest and things of that nature. So the thing I would say is absolutely, right? We're validating a new product in our agency right now. And so we have put together 10 different angles by which we are looking to see which one of these 10 angles could be the thing that makes our buyer or potential buyer want to move closer to us about this topic. The topic has to do with video marketing, but video marketing is broad. But I don't know why someone might want to use video. So the answer would be absolutely yes. Now, if you don't have a following on social media just yet, then there are simple ways you can do $1-a-day ads to start pushing it out into your market to test those messages to get some velocity on that. So there are some strategies to do there. But I would say, yeah, if you don't have time to do manual outreach, because when you're a startup, outreach is obviously fastest. But if you don't have time, you don't have an audience, then yeah, absolutely social. And then there's some simple ad strategies, which again, I'm not continually trying to say, but in our Facebook group, I did a campaign walk down of the $1 a day ad strategy, and they could use something like that.
Gotcha. Excellent. Darrell, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming in.